Situated off the coast of North Carolina, the Outer Banks is a beautiful set of barrier islands. Famous for many things, including its spectacular wildlife and its lighthouses. The Outer Banks has a rich history, as well as spectacular landscapes. This beautiful area is also home to the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, whose impressive dunes and spectacular wildlife draw many tourists to the stunning beauty of the Outer Banks. Tourism and fishing are the largest industries in the Outer Banks. Fishing is possibly the most important attraction to the Outer Banks, and for many it's considered a way of life. Though there are fishing seasons in late fall and early winter, the most popular season is always summer, and the most popular summer fishing spots are only accessible through driving of off-road vehicles, or ORVs for short. Though in recent years, these important summer fishing spots have been blocked off due to the protection of a small shorebird, the piping plover. The piping plover, or Charadrius mellitus, is a small shorebird with pale, sand-colored plumage and crowns that blend perfectly with the sand. The plover's bills and legs are yellowish, but their bills have a black tip. During the winter, its legs and bill turn a darker color. They are naturally timid, and this coupled with their camouflage helps to explain why them and their eggs have been threatened. Piping plovers migrate north in the summer and winters to the south on the Gulf of Mexico, the southern Atlantic coast of the United States, and the Caribbean Sea. They breed exclusively on the North American continent and in 3 locations: the Great Lakes, the Northern Great Plains, and the Atlantic coast. They begin migrating north in mid-March and begin mating and nesting on the beach in mid-April. Their mating season is usually over around late August. The piping plover is considered a threatened species. However, at one point the Great Lakes population was considered endangered. But what does the piping plover have to do with off-road vehicles? Well, according to the 1972 Federal Advisory Committee Act, the National Park Service at the Outer Banks was supposed to come up with an ORV regulation plan at Cape Hatteras National Seashore. However, a plan was never made. Believing that ORVs were a huge threat to the survival of the piping plover, Defenders of Wildlife and the National Audubon Society filed a lawsuit against the National Park Service for improper management of protected species in 2007. The lawsuit also pointed to the failure of coming up with an ORV regulation plan. In April 2008, a consent decree was signed to settle the lawsuit. The decree blocked off all ORV access during the plover's breeding season, thus effectively blocking ORV beach access during the most important tourist season, summer. Now I'll remind you that the most important tourist industry in the Outer Banks is fishing. Its geographic location next to the Gulf Stream makes some fishing locations like the Point on Cape Hatteras some of the greatest in the world. You could say that fishing is the way of life in the Outer Banks. The blocking of these fishing spots from off-road vehicle access makes no real sense, as the plover has never been statistically endangered by off-road vehicles. From 1961 to 2008, there were only 21 off-road vehicle-related deaths for the piping plover population, 20 of which are attributed to park ranger vehicles, leaving only 1 death by a civilian off-road vehicle driver. In order to protect the plover, the federal government enacted a program called the Predator Removal Program. The predators targeted included raccoon, otter, fox, mink, opossum, and muskrat. Sadly, in 2002, over 700 of these animals had been killed as a result of the program. It's ironic that in order to protect one species, so many more must be sacrificed. Just like natural predators, Mother Nature is a greater enemy to the piping plovers than off-road vehicles ever will be. During the 12 years from 1996 to 2008, the population of the piping plover consistently grew when there were less storms or less severe storms, and consistently shrank when there were more storms or more severe storms. As I've said, the tourism industry in the Outer Banks is based off of surf fishing and beach activities. And due to the lack of access to the beaches from off-road vehicles during the important summer seasons, the economy and the community have taken some major hits. In an interview with Fox News, John Couch, owner of the Red Drum, a local tackle shop, claims that since the consent decree, his shop loses an average of $30,000 a year. Nobody should ever have to see their whole way of life or the soul of their economy destroyed. However, today some of the locals of the Outer Banks of North Carolina face this conflict all the time. The overprotection of a non-threatened species, which mankind poses no real threat to, should not determine the economic and social future of the Outer Banks. While it is understood that the protection of the piping plover is ultimately a good goal, it can be observed that the steps that have been taken, the killing of innocent natural predators, and the unfair and illogical closing of ORV recreational beaches in order to protect it, are malevolent and are not worth the decimation of a people's way of life.